In this video, we will migrate content from Mixamo Fuse 1.3 to Adobe Fuse CC. Adobe has ended support for Fuse 1.3 and it no longer connects to the online auto rigger, effectively abandoning figures and content that dated back to the beginning of the program. The early figures are lower resolution and stylistically more tuned compared to the body-wrapped scans in the current version. But base bodies include generic male and female teen, muscular, thin, and heavy figures. Let's get started. First, we'll export the figure from Fuse 1.3 as an OBJ file. We'll grab the original texture maps from Fuse 1.3. Then we'll import the OBJ as a new base body in Fuse CC. In the second part of the video, we'll transfer clothing using the exported base body as a reference mesh. Mixamo Fuse 1.3 can be downloaded for free from Steam. All versions of Fuse use the same UV map. The skin substance, morph dials, conforming props, and the auto rigger all reference the UV coordinates, so old figures are still compatible. The body parts can even be swapped with parts from newer figures. Although the UV maps are the same, the vertices are very different. The face has similar detail, but we can really see the difference in the torso and legs. The 1.4, or Adobe, figure has a dense cage mesh designed for sculpt wrapping. The arms, hands, and feet also have more vertices. Fuse uses an occlusion mask in the clothing to cut away the hidden parts of the body. Be aware, you may have problems when you mix old and new content. A misaligned occlusion mask will cut away an extra row of vertices, leaving a gap between the clothes and the body. First, we'll export a base body from Mixamo Fuse 1.3. Go to File, Export, Export Model as OBJ. We're not concerned with the textures, and we have no hair or props added. Our export gave us game-ready textures, but what we want are the figure's original base textures, which are stored in the Mixamo data folder inside the program. Navigate to Applications, and right-click Fuse to open the package contents. Navigate to Data, Domains, Mixamo, and the folder we want is called Parts. Now, if you have multiple instances of a figure saved as presets, the secondary preset folders will not have the base textures. They only reference the original file. Find the original base body folder and copy the textures. In Adobe Fuse, let's import the figure as a new character. We'll go to File, Import, Import Character. This opens the Character Import wizard. Browse to our OBJ, and hit Next. Here we can select a display name for the browser, and we can edit this later. Select the appropriate customized type, and we want to generate all body parts. I recommend adding a tag, so you will know which models came from the old program. Next, we'll add the character maps, and here we have a couple of choices. We can select a base body that is already installed and automatically load that figure's texture maps. But in this case, we'll use the texture maps we copied from Fuse 1.3, so I'll just clear out these entries. Add the ambient occlusion map. Now, this figure has no detail map, so I'll leave that blank. Add the normal map. And the aged normal map. Hit finish and we're done. After about a minute of processing, which I've sped through, the new figure appears in the Assemble area, alphabetically, according to the display name. The imported figure is ready to customize and texture. Adobe Fuse clothing conforms to our imported figure, but on close fit items we may see skin poking through where the vertices misalign. In part 1, we saw how easy it is to migrate a figure from Mixamo Fuse 1.3 to Adobe Fuse CC. In part 2, we'll transfer clothing and hair using the exported base body as a reference mesh. We'll start by exporting a figure with clothing and hair props from Mixamo Fuse 1.3. We'll locate and copy the original texture maps from Mixamo Fuse. And this time we'll need a basic 3D program to edit the OBJ and split up the body and clothing as separate files. We'll import the base body and assign it as the reference mesh for the clothing and hair. Finally, we'll use the Clothing Import Wizard and edit the clothing's default substance settings. In Mixamo Fuse 1.3, I've loaded the base body and am adding clothing and hair I want to transfer to Adobe Fuse. Go to File, Export, Export Model as OBJ, and make sure the option to remove occluded polygons is not checked. We need to copy the texture maps for each clothing item we want to import. Right-click on the application icon to open the package contents, and navigate to Data, Domains, Mixamo, Cloths. Find the primary instance of the clothing item, and copy the texture maps. I'll copy-paste the original model's name onto my export OBJ. This name will be used when Fuse builds the internal cloth folder, so it's best to keep the names consistent. If this is a new base body, copy the figure's texture maps from the Parts folder, as we saw in the earlier tutorial. You'll only need to import a base body once, but you might export that body several times as a carrier for the clothing and hair. In a 3D program, I've opened the OBJ and I split the body, clothes, and hair into separate meshes. I'll export each item as its own OBJ file. Back in Adobe Fuse, use the Character Import Wizard to add the base body and texture maps we copied from Mixamo Fuse 1.3. Since we already saw this step in part 1, I'll speed past it. Before we can import clothing, we need to quit and restart Adobe Fuse, so our new base body is updated as a reference mesh. Now we'll import the clothing. In Adobe Fuse, go to File, Import, Import Clothing. This opens the Import Clothing wizard. Browse to the individual OBJ and hit Next. Choose a name that will be displayed in the Fuse browser. We can edit this later. Set the category for the item. Choose clothing or hair, and select our base body. And add a tag. Add the texture maps we copied from Fuse 1.3. Using the Color Mask preview, we can pick display names for the substances. The clothing has been added to the browser. In the texture room, assign the substances and set the default. An item that has been imported can be edited directly in the browser. Right-click on the thumbnail and choose Edit. We can select a different base body, edit the tags, and change the display name. We can update the texture maps and edit the substance names. The map's background color should be left blank. Saving our changes overrides the previous default settings. Assign the new substances and set the default. The thumbnail will regenerate and appear in the browser.